Welcome to the show. Geek Insider presents Into the Geekverse, the place to get an inside look at movies, comics, games, tech, and everything exciting going on in the Geekverse. Join Matthew Harris and David King as they take a deeper look at the good, the bad, and the downright terrible things our Geekverse has to offer. With live chat, geek news, special guests, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and join us for a peek into the Geekverse.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. This week, we're excited to start celebrating one of mine and Matthew's favorite holidays, Halloween. Now, I know we still got time for it, but with us to help talk about decoration tips is Edward. Thank you for coming out. What can you tell us about what you can do to make Halloween better this year?
Oh my God, do we have enough time?
We got as much time as you've got.
First of all, before we even start, we have to discuss real quickly your intro's voice and her inflection when she says the good and the bad.
David made the comment on that as soon as it was recorded. He was like, yo, man, this sounds a little dirty. And I was like,
it's not a little dirty. It's a lot dirty. And it got my attention.
Well, as long as we catch, one person's out of three's attention, then we're doing our job.
Oh, yeah,
she's doing her job.
You got mine. So, hi, guys. Hi, everybody. Edward Perotti here. I have been designing events for over 28 years. I've had the privilege and honor of doing them all over the world for multiple of companies and individuals, and I'd hate to say you name it and I've probably done it, or you name them and I might have worked with them, but I won't name names. I take that to my grave. I will talk scenarios and I will tell you crazy stories, but I'll never name drop.
Well, we don't need you to name drop. We just want some of these juicy stories here. This is Geek Insider. And so, we love that inside stories. But as David said, Halloween is one of our favorite holidays. I was telling you right before we came on, I actually renewed my wedding vows on Halloween. My youngest daughter, just started her 31 days of Halloween today. And her and her girlfriend, she was going through lists. She's going, Dad, I got this, and this. And I said, yeah, well, you forgot this and this. And she goes, holy crap. And so they were watching two of them today, 13 Ghosts and Ghost Ship. But
both are great movies.
Aren't they?
Oh my God, yes.
And her girlfriend hadn't seen them at all. And so she was totally introducing her to them. And they're introducing each other to things. My daughter hadn't seen Game of Thrones. So, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
That's an offline conversation.
But
this Halloween it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to apologize for the parents, because I've spent 2.5 years with the events, with digital, with all these things, but
yes,
preaching and evangelizing how to do events safely and through COVID and coming out of it.
Right.
What does Ed do? Ed decides to go to a funeral of a high school student and catches the vid. So I'm at the tail end of it now. So if you see me get a little, hot flashes, it's not menopause. It's actually COVID. Oh my God, I'm going to get so many hate emails for that one. But no, I mean, Halloween actually, especially this year, with it being kind of the first one people start feeling more comfortable.
Right.
But I'm going to preface it, be diligent. We're not out of the woods. We're never going to be out of the woods.
Yep.
Just be mindful. I mean, I as an example, I'm high risk. 2-3 years ago, I had a stroke, was paralyzed. And through the process, they found cancer. So I had to go through all of that.
Wow.
So I'm like a ticking time bomb. So it's like, it's one of those where, you need to watch out for the lunatics like me, but also vice versa, right? I mean, it is kind of love thy neighbor mentality. So with Halloween especially, and it makes it easier to be careful because it's characters, it's masks, it's you can build in protective gear and nobody would ever know.
Right.
So that's my one soapbox. So I'll get off it now and we can talk other stuff. I get so much inspiration from movies and theater when it comes to decor in general. You're right. There'll be a scene in the movie that, I mean, I was just this afternoon watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I've got this mid-century modern bug up my behind now that I just want to deck something out with shag. I need to find shag rug somewhere and do it in avocado and tangerine and, you know.
I grew up in the 70s, man.
I've seen in the neighborhood, but whatever.
I grew up in the 70s, man. I had shag carpet in my house.
Right? I mean, and who didn't have an avocado green phone?
Oh God, yes, the little one, and you know, I guess
we didn't have the little one. We had the one on the wall.
Ours was the smoke colored, or I guess it started out white, but my parents smoking turned it this yellow. But
and just so you know, Matthew, so David understands. David, phones used to be on the wall, and you'd have to use a little rotor thing, and it had a cord. Sorry.
I'll keep that in mind the next time I go to Matthew's house. That way I know how to dial 911.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
Okay, so see, I've been locked in my bedroom for a week, so you guys are getting the brunt of everything that's been pent up.
Hey, we love it.
This is gonna be a great show.
So when we talk about decor, I'm really, my aesthetic is very much about details and suggesting versus literal. So, you know, and I'm a true believer that one or two really good moments are all you really need. You don't need to go bazonka crazy,
right?
You know, with the front yard or inside the house, or that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, we could do these all week long. I mean, I walk by people's neighborhoods like Madeline Kahn did in History of the World Part 1, and I'm like, no, yes. No, yes.
Try again next year.
I'm still waiting for that house where I'll stop and just in a perfect high C scream yes.
Right. Yes.
But it's finding those moments, right? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you know, you mentioned your daughter introducing her friend to Ghost Ship, and that movie has such the spectacular scene on the deck.
Oh my God, that has got to be one of the best opening scenes,
right,
ever.
And and if you think about the things, you know, what is it in that one scene that's captured your attention, even in a magazine, right? What's the one thing that's capturing your attention? It's not the whole thing. Never try and recreate an entire image because you're going to fail. I would fail. You'll fail. It's a moment in time from somebody's head that you can never, that's lightning in a bottle that will never strike again. So is it the lighting? Is it the shadows? Is it the flowers? Is it the wardrobe? What is it that grabs you? And then let that kind of inner creativity in you just go bonkers. Halloween, there is zero rules. There aren't any other than be smart, be safe, and don't freak little kids out. Right.
Well, you know, my late wife and I, I'm remarried now, but my late wife and I, we actually got somehow voluntold to do a haunted barn in a big field. We're given carte blanche and a pretty good sizable amount of money. And we did a lot of cool stuff, and I won't go into everything, but one of the biggest thing that we heard people commenting on was I went riding around in the country, found an old big television set, and I spent a day gutting that thing. I put a strobe light in it, had a little girl with a long black wig, and she come out doing this, and people freaked the hell out. So going to your point, like you were saying, you ain't got to do up the whole front yard. It can be those little damn things. And,
Yes.
like I said, I could go on with all kinds of the little neat tricks we came up with, because you're working on a budget. You're doing this. You want to make as much money as you can,
Right.
and folks, don't get us wrong here. Edward isn't just a Halloween guru here. This man does some decorating and parties.
Man of many talents.
Yes.
I mean, not that I'm. I will say that yes, and it's and not that I want to toot my own horn, but
toot.
it's I'm going to get in real trouble for this. But no, it's Halloween. Halloween to me is the precursor for the holiday season, right?
Yep.
It should be your warm-up act in preparing your house and really starting to investigate your house for those items that you've forgotten or you've hidden away that you could bring out for Thanksgiving, that you could bring out for Christmas instead of buying new, right? It's the perfect time to rummage through the closets, through the garage, through the attic, through finding those nuggets that, oh my God, I bought that 20 years ago. It still has the tag on it, right? And really look at that. But a surefire trick, though, for people to, because decorating tends to be like writing. You get a writer's block. You don't know. You need to start somewhere. And how do I put this? I read this story, or not story, but in a book a long time ago, and it was this gentleman had said, if you were to walk into a kindergarten class and ask the class who can draw, they'll all raise their hand, right?
Right.
And they'll all proudly raise their hand. You ask the same question in 6th grade, and you'll probably get a good 2/3. Senior year, maybe a quarter. Ask in a boardroom, no hands. So at what point does a person lose the faith in their own creativity? Right? When do they start listening to those voices in their head that they can't do something? So get over that roadblock by taking a simple trip to the fabric store. Just go to the fabric store and wander the cosplay aisle, wander the specialty fabrics. Honestly, the cosplay aisle usually gives me the most little push because you just see these crazy ass fabrics. And my mind doesn't go to the character that they're usually going to be used for.
Right.
I go a whole nother way. Finding that red leather, shiny patent leather Wonder Woman kind of thing. Of course, I'm walking around with the bolt in my hand and, in San Francisco. And I'm like, now, first off, I'm 6'4". This does not make a pretty girl. So we're not going down that. But
I'm not going for Wonder Woman this year.
No. I mean, honestly, if never mind. But I went right down the path of Silent Hill. Oh. And there was just something about that. And then Lady Gaga comes in the town and we had the concert going. And I just kept thinking Gaga and just started mixing that with hot pink tulle and studs and just the veils and everything. And it was just kind of overly feminine, sexy S&M just thing. And I'm like, now that's cool. That's, it's rough. It's got a dark side, but that red and that pink combo all of a sudden makes it more, what's that line or the song from Kinky Boots? The 3 feet of sex on your heels.
Yeah.
Right. Or something like that. Billy Porter sent me a nasty comment that I got a song wrong. But it's really finding having something like that, then launch your head. And then you use that as your base. So like for this year, I'm obviously, because what's going on with me, but I'm taking it back, and I'm only doing a few select events this year. I'm also going to go on holiday this year for the first time in 2 years. So
hey, take it.
I'm getting the heck out of Dodge and getting on a plane and
get while the getting's good.
I'm excited about Hocus Pocus.
Oh, I just saw my wife and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, go.
But that's one of our all-time. We have to watch every Halloween. And my wife was like, it's been so long, and there's not going to have the amok. And I saw the trailer an hour before we came in here, and it's the new trailer because it starts next week. And you hear her, Sarah Jessica Parker, as they're getting up on the brooms, and she goes, amok. And my wife was asleep at the time. There's been a rough few days, so she didn't hear it. And I'm like, oh, I almost wanted to elbow her because, we're excited about that one too.
I just want to see Kathy on her Roombas. that's going to be it for me. But it's so, I'm excited about that. So I'm using that as a baseline for food stations. But I'm not. But for me, the original, I connected with the original with the whole cemetery.
Oh yeah,
and just how it was colored and lit. And the trees. So I'm actually riffing off of that. I found somebody who made me the book. So I have book.
Oh.
I found somebody who actually carved the black candle, the black flame. So it's got all of that. But it's, it's playing on that. And from a fabric, I found this amazing ombre camo, but it's not camo. It's all the camo colors in a velvet. And it just screams moss. So I'm just kind of riffing off of that, and then it's all going to be about evil Disney this year, which is interesting. I've got bar centerpieces, and we created these mini champagne walls that'll hold 20 glasses each that are freestanding, and they're Snow White. They're the evil queen. So they're all done in the purple. They've got the stalks going up. I have a hand coming out of them with holding the apple. The base is all green crystals lit to look like the mine. It's kind of playing, but it's telling, you'll know what it is, but it's not literal, right? And then the last one we're doing is for a child. I shouldn't say child, they're a teenager, but they love Encanto. Well, okay, great. Right. I tend to look at grandma as, okay, first off, you're kind of like my mother, but a little controlling. But the thing that got me
got that from.
Right. The thing that got me with that movie was the destruction of the house.
I love it.
How at the end, everything started growing out of a new foundation. So I found these massive rocks and bore holes in them, and I had my team mount these willow trees in them, and I'm wrapping them all in bougainvillea and ivy, and I've got the gold butterflies coming off, and there's 3 that are 6 feet high that'll be the table centerpieces. So it's life growing out of rubble,
right?
And then with all the color and everything else to kind of tie it in. But that's to me where I would want people to go with Halloween is, don't be so literal with a graveyard. Don't be so literal. Play with the concept of what is it about the graveyard that scares you? Is it the shadows? Is it, just the emptiness or the stillness? For me, it's the stillness, right? How do you create those environments or those emotions with decor?
And you've mentioned, walking through your house, or not through your house, but through the garage or through the attic, and letting something inspire you, and taking inspiration from your favorite movies. But all too often, folks take that inspiration from whatever is current that year. Like we got another Halloween movie coming out this year.
Right.
I love Michael Myers. Don't get me wrong. Every Halloween,
give me some Jamie Lee Curtis any day. I will drop everything and leave my husband.
Yeah, I completely agree. But again, what you said earlier or right at the beginning, this is the first year that we're really everybody's kind of getting out of that pandemic mode. We're getting back to some get-togethers, and like you've so rightfully said, we still need to be cautious, but for those that are on a budget, a limited budget this year, but they're having to get together with, Ma and Pa and a couple of the neighbors. What you mentioned the fabric store. Where's the one place that you could think of that they should look at for those materials? Is it, like you said, start with inside the home, and do they hit the True Value down the street?
Not yet. No, the steps that I would suggest, and it's budget or no budget, right? The pieces of an event puzzle are the same. So I would look at the steps as the same as for home, right? Let's preface this home versus when I get to go bonkers with the other ones. But fabric store to start with, just to get your baseline going and get your creativity going. From that point, you should something will pop in your head, a theme, an idea, or whatever. That's when, to me, I would go home and I'd start looking around and start making a list of what I have and I can use, or what I need, and just make a very clear shopping list. So you're not going back and forth. You're not, maybe all you do is you found an old vase that you never knew, and that's the only thing. Okay, well, you got to fill it. So put whatever you're thinking, on that as your list, and then go out. It really depends on where you live. I mean, I find a lot of really good props at secondhand stores.
Same here. Yep.
A good antique store. It's amazing. One year we rebuilt the ballroom from the Haunted Mansion, and went to an antique store and bought an entire collection of mismatched china. And some of it was broken, and some of that, and people, you were eating on it, but it was just right. I mean, why not? And the only real investment was finding that right fabric to create that really ornate table for the tablecloth, right? And then taking that and throwing that into a tub full of hot tea so it would stain it and things like that, right? So I mean, it's just a matter of finding those tricks. And most people, and when I say most, I'm going to say good 85-90% of people, no tricks. They just don't remember they know the tricks.
Right.
And it's just a matter of being creative and figuring it out. I mean, you want to create something on your front porch. Well, it's theater 101 for me. It's amazing what chicken wire can do. And a visit to like a Michael's and collecting a bunch of the pumpkins and the flowers and the skeletons and just wiring everything together.
It's like duct tape.
Right?
I can't tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, I really like where the creativity blossoms and that you're saying, because as a new homeowner myself, I find myself going to stores, especially when I'm building things, and you see places like Lowe's or whatever, where they've just got like all these big inflatables and signs that you could buy and everything that's very literal. Like you said, I've never thought of it literal, but it's literal. So instead of people thinking about this really creative way that they can make themselves expressed through Halloween and showing everybody, they're thinking there's skeletons, I can buy a bunch of skeletons, or there's a cemetery, I could buy stones, rather than letting the house, like I'm really big for creativity and letting your work speak as to who you are, rather than just being a direct reflection off of something else. So I really like where you're talking about that creativity comes in. I've never thought about going to a fabric store to start there.
I mean, it is, and especially and I have to assume for your audience, right? Your audience has got to be some of the most creative thinkers in general. If we're talking about tech, we're talking about gaming, we're talking about movies, they're already there. They just need to get out of the literal sense,
right?
And find that one thing and riff the heck out of the details on that one thing, right? And have some flippin' fun with it all, right? I mean, for good or bad, you can yell at me or not yell at me, I'm actually excited for the Hellraiser reboot.
This is my brother from another mother here.
I'm a horror guy. I am. It's when the days are really bad, what do I put on? horror movie because I sure and heck want to see someone else getting it, so I don't do it to someone.
Okay, wait, pause real quick, and then you can continue your thought. Are you a fan of full moon features? Puppet Master, the lower end of the thing.
I have to be in the mood.
Yeah, of course.
I have to be in the mood, and when I watch them, I also need to remind myself of, okay, those are my teenage years, and I mean, I
they still make them.
I know they do. I know, and somehow they got worse.
Oh, I had Charles Band on here, man. So, okay, there's another email you're getting.
Yeah, right. Well, it's when it comes to the horror genre. I mean, it's a ball of wine, right? It is so subjective, and yes. Everyone's taste. I like blood and guts in a movie doesn't bother me unless it's mine. But if the storytelling is good, I don't care what you're throwing at me on camera.
Right.
And that's where it's like, Puppet Master as an example, the storyline behind that was good.
For the first, yeah.
Yeah, for the first one. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like Leprechaun. Sorry,
yes.
Jennifer. But it's those kind of, things that just kind of spark you and get you going. And your audience knows this and they embrace it. I mean, how much fun from a Halloween perspective can you have with all the sci-fi stuff that's been going on and all the fantasy that's been going on? I mean, heck, you could just put a cloak on and carry 3 eggs and put a blonde wig and call it a day, right? Put a bonfire in the front of the yard and have the kids throw the eggs in the fire. Poof, you're done. Right? It's like I said, it's a really good intro to getting back out there, to interacting with people again, to having fun, being mindful, and getting things ready for the winter.
Rest of the holiday, the rest of the holiday season. And, kind of backing up for a minute, because it didn't even dawn on me. You were talking about visiting the fabric store, and that I didn't even realize it till you said that was a huge part, or fabric was a huge part of that event my wife and I put on, the whole haunted hayride thing, because I used wood from actually a old fence that his dad had torn down, and it was this old cedar fencing. And we made a cross out of that, and it was hanging upside down. And my wife released a pulley, and it came popping down. And all it was this black sheer cloth with an ugly witch mask on it. And it looked like she teleported from one side to the other. It took me, a couple of hours to hook up. But that was the whole thing, was the cloth, that sheer cloth, pulling it up. You could do the hood. We used some more of that same cloth in this skeleton of a greenhouse that they had set up. They just had the wires coming over, and I hooked up a witch that come flying by over the tops of everybody's heads, and it was more of that cloth billowing out behind her. This was, if you looked at it up close, it's not scary at all, but it going flying by your head, it was pretty freaking scary, or at least cool. Go ahead.
You'll know, and remember as well, like when you watch horror movies, what's the scariest moments in a horror movie? When nothing is happening and your imagination is running. When you're watching the screen and 0 things are going on, but you're anticipating. And that is a scarier moment than when that person jumps out. That person jumping out isn't scary. That's the cork coming off the champagne bottle of your anxiety. Right? So when you're talking about decor as well for Halloween, think about that as well, right? I mean, the conservatory from The Haunting.
Oh,
do you remember that movie?
Yes.
With the fountain and all the plant life overgrown, and then that metal spiral staircase. Can you tell I had no life as a child? But it's that room itself, without anything else, was a terrifying room. That set was scary. That fireplace, that if you turned your garage door into that fireplace.
Oh man.
Right? And think about what that would look like, because the sheer size of that fireplace was so ominous that you didn't need to do anything. You got scared at the first shot when you saw it. You're like, holy crap. Right? It's like, who'd they burn in here? Well, kids. But you know, it's thinking past what's in front, right? I mean, my grandmother used to always say, my grandfather as well, is I definitely, as you can probably imagine, I didn't blend in my family. I was the theater boy. I was not the jock. 6'4", and I was not the jock. Don't even. I could swim.
I understand.
But, you know, I think I know the difference now between a football and a basketball, but you know, it's still kind of subjective.
You got a 50-50 shot.
I got exactly to get a home run. But
I love it.
But it was, you know, it's I never looked at anything for what it was. I always looked at it for what it could be. And looking at things as what's possible allows you that freedom to just be creative, right? If you look at a vase and all you see is a vase, all you're ever going to get is a vase. Right? If you look at a cake stand and all you see is that's all you're going to get. A couple of years ago, I flipped all these metal cake stands upside down and I spray painted all the pumpkin silver and made these entire steampunk and used those metal.
Nice.
And no one knew that they were cake plates. But it's looking at things completely, and I don't really want to say different. It's just looking at
a new perspective,
right? Just they always say to stand in someone else's shoes. Kind of do the same thing when it comes to decor.
Yeah, because if you just have the blinders on and you're only looking at from your perspective, you're limiting yourself. You know, you've got to think outside the box, especially when it comes to Halloween. What is, you know, funny to you or scary to you may not be to your guest or your intended audience. And so you've got to think out, you know, outside your scope on Halloween. And real quick, one more time on what my wife and I did. We had the happiest accident you could ever happen. We had a graveyard and he brought out a backhoe, dug graves that people were hiding in. And I mean, 4-foot graves they come pouncing out of. Well, we had fog machines out there, extension cords running everywhere. And the Halloween gods shined down upon us that first night and set the weather conditions just right. And it created a natural fog over that entire thing for the whole night. I mean, we couldn't have planned it if we tried. And, but, you know, yes, we used a lot of ingenuity, but we had a little luck too.
It's so funny. As you're saying that, the first thing that popped in my head was the reboots of The Living Dead.
Oh,
it's like
yes.
throw some of the green lights in those graves with that fog going. So
we did.
Green mist coming out of the barrels.
Oh, yes. And his dad and I actually, out of those same fence posts, we built a casket, an old-timey casket. And so at the end of that thing, there was green lights down in it. I don't know how many of those little chem lights we threw down in there, but we had cut a cross in the front of it. And so all those green lights made this green glowing light come out of the cross out of there. Well, then from the side of it, this mummy or Leatherface comes running out. I'm talking too much about this whole thing, but it was just set up perfectly because we used a lot of the resources we had, like you were talking about, old fence posts or fencing, an old TV I picked up on the side of the road. And that's the thing, folks, that we really wanted to have Edward Arden help get the point across, is that you don't have to spend a lot of money and you don't have to do the cookie cutter Halloween party. You can be unique. It just takes a little bit of ingenuity. And Edward, we got a big question here. He's asked it twice now. When you got started out, did you use your own funds to start building up that career, or, you know, how did that go, man?
Well, let's just say that who knew there was an industry? I mean, 28 years ago,
right?
You know, so short answer, no. I actually started once I found out that there was an industry, an event industry, right? I made it my mission to figure out what I was good at, right? And like I said, I'm a child of the theater. So what I thought was funny was as I worked on the corporate stuff, it was corporate theater. Somebody was giving me a script and I had to figure out a way to get an audience to see it, understand it, you know, feel it, taste it, smell it, the whole thing while somebody was saying the words, because it became the experience. It's not, you know, and I definitely was not the normal thinker back then because my head already was in a theater mode that I need to immerse an audience in an event. It's the only way they're going to digest the words. And it started off on corporate. So I've worked in corporate. I've worked in trade show side. I worked with caterers. I worked with hotels. I learned every possible side to events as possible in order to kind of get to a certain point. And at a certain point, then, you know, you think you have it all, and then lo and behold, new tricks come in. So it's you know, so did I use my own funds? No, I built it. It's a slow build. There is no such thing as stepping in and world domination. I'm still not even there. I know we're close.
Okay, we will pick up there here in just a second because I would almost beg to differ, but we got to take a pause for the cause to pay some bills, folks. We are speaking with Edward Perotti, and the reason I know how to say that is because we had a pizza place growing up that was called Perotti's Pizza, and I went to school with a daughter. But we'll be right back, folks. We're talking Halloween and decorating, not even just Halloween, but this is Edward Perotti. He's been all over the place with all kinds of stars. And in a minute, I'm going to get him to give us some inside information. He won't reveal no names, but I bet he gives us some damn information that hadn't been anywhere else. But y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out.
And I always have to say right here, folks, that is available at coregamingusa.com. I know if you're watching on the YouTube channel, it says it expires in like 2020. That is reactivated on coregamingusa.com. Put in Geek25 and you get 25% off. And now, Edward, you said you are not very well renowned. I know some of the names you've worked with. We won't reveal them right now because I don't want to give it any slants on indications who it might have been. But you, before we came on camera, man, you messed up. Because you said you got some dish. You can't say no names. It doesn't have to be Halloween. I don't care what function it was, man. I want some dish.
All I could say is the minute you said that, on the other side of the camera is my dog, and she looks at me and she automatically just rolled on her back like she just died and just spread her legs like, come here and rub my belly, get off the camera.
Daddy, look, Daddy, distraction.
Oh, she knows Daddy's in trouble.
If you say no names, then we're
okay.
Legally
So, musical performer who, in their writer, needed. We were at the Fairmont in San Francisco. classic building. I mean, come on, survived the 1906 earthquake. This thing's been around forever, right? I mean, it just, little plug for the Fairmont Hotel. I got married. Hey, look, a new sponsor for you guys. Anyway, this particular performer, they were in the owner suite, which is the entire top floor of the original building. So it was the owner's house. It's 3 bedrooms. It's obscene. Has way too much to explain. Anyway, everything needed to be blacked out. 24 hours before the individual shows up, their entourage comes and they walk the room and have everything, everything's ready to go. Everything's all set. And they're like, the windows aren't blacked out. I'm like, yeah, the blackout curtains are all there showing them. And they're like, no. And I'm not going to say the gender. They.
Smart.
I got you.
Watching out for those detectives.
They said, no, it has to be painted black. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to go tell the GM of a hotel that's been around since the turn of the century, and I mean the 1900s, not 2000,
right, that
they need to paint their windows black. My first response was, what are they, a vampire? Needless to say, it wasn't the performer's request, it was their staff's. Which is something that I've learned over the years is so many of the crazy requests aren't the talent, is not the name.
Oh.
It's the staff who wants it, who are sitting backstage.
Huh.
I mean, I worked with one band and I'll say it, they're gentlemen. They're great guys. And one of their shows how approachable they are. Their favorite chocolate comes from Trader Joe's. It's like no bougie, no nothing. We want chocolate from Trader. I'm like, okay, I love these guys. But the one thing that was crazy was that they wanted organic hard-boiled eggs. Okay. So after the event is over and we're all sitting backstage and we're having a drink and I go up to them and I'm like, I need you to explain to me the egg thing. And they're like, well, that's all we eat is organic. And I'm like, okay, yes, I get that. Can you show me? And they're like, well, they're over there on the table. I'm like, I need you to show me. And so we walk over and they take the bowl of the eggs. I'm like, okay, but the eggs are peeled. So how do you know they're organic? There's no stamp on the inside of an egg. It's only on the shell. They're all peeled. You could be eating dirt egg. Right? I mean, it's the crazy stuff. So I actually now have in my writer as a joke that I want dolphin safe donuts. Thank you, brother. If you remember that South Park episode when they had the band and Butters ends up with his Yoko. Yeah. I want dolphin safe donuts because I want to know whoever's reading that. Well, then if they ask what the heck is a dolphin safe donut, I at least know they've read it.
Right.
And I'm like, as long as a dolphin wasn't harmed in the making of it, I'm good.
So I got to back up a second. You're a South Park fan?
I love South Park.
My email address is Cartman Did It, and I can't tell you how many comments I get on that. They're like, okay. And then in a business contact, this was outside of Geek Insider. It was my day job as a writer. And they were like, okay, what is your favorite episode? And I went, oh, no. I said, it's Butter's bottom bitch.
I have that on my phone.
Oh, my God. Hey, bitch, you want to make some money? See, I told you, brother from another mother. This is, folks, we're speaking with Edward Perotti. He's done a lot of not just parties, events, red carpet affair kind of things. He's worked with some really big names. He won't mention any of them because he won't name names because we're talking bad things about. No, I'm just kidding. But this Halloween, if you're looking for, unique ways to get decorated for the party, or you just want to decorate up your house, he's had some really cool ideas. back up. If you're just coming in on the show on YouTube, that you need to back up and go and listen in to the whole show. If you're coming in on the podcast, then you heard everything. But Edward, going back kind of the question that one of the guests asked earlier, they asked, did you put your own money into it? What was the show or the event that really set you on your path? Is there one, or was it a culmination?
What's interesting is that it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn and it's a slow build. I mean, much like trying to navigate Hollywood in general, right? As right. Kind of currently what I'm doing is, nobody wants to talk to you unless you've done this. And then once you've done this, maybe this group will talk to you. And then once you've done that, this next, it's all the steps. Same for the events. You don't come out of the gate. It's you seize the opportunities in the moments and you give 200% in every one of them, regardless. Because right. One, you never know who's watching. Right. You never know who's going to be there. But if you don't understand that your professional brand, especially in this situation, my professional brand and my personal brand go hand in hand, right? I am my product.
Right.
So I have to be very mindful of, if I'm not going to do something, there has to be legitimate reasons. And there's a lot of business that I walk away from. And the ones that I do now, it's not so much for the show anymore. It's for a cause, or like I'm a firm believer in building give back into every event, leaving something in the community around the world, wherever we hold these events, because that's what we should be doing, right? We're coming there and we're celebrating in ways that most people don't get, right? I mean, how many people get the Louvre closed down for them for a dinner party, right?
Oh, man.
So you damn well better figure out something in Paris to leave behind with the people that are actually experiencing it. It's not just me doing it, right. But I want the guests involved, even when it comes to a wedding, right? I mean, there are so many couples that they don't need these gifts. They don't need the stuff. So how about we find a local community, charity or something, that your registry could actually be built around that and those needs.
I like
right? That. And start thinking past the all about me. So that's kind of where my head goes now with the events, is how do I build in a give back? How do I make sure that it's also, sustainable? It's, am I upcycling as much as possible? Am I local fooding it as much as possible? What's going on with my food waste? All these things, and then throw COVID into the mix, and I got to keep everybody healthy, right? So it's a slow build. But if I was going to say pinnacle that just made me throw away my feelings of an imposter syndrome, and I think that's key there, was one, taking over the Louvre, just getting permission to close the Louvre down.
Yeah, I can see that.
That was in itself quite fun. Doing the same thing at Versailles is taking 80 people and having and the funny thing was with the Versailles event, it's a public park. So as much as the chateau was closed, and I do think it's funny they call it a chateau, but having the chateau closed, but the grounds were still, people would still wander around. And, of course, I'm walking around saying, oh, I'm going to get, little Sally and Johnny in their Gap t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops walking by my people in formal on the lawn. Doing a little twitch there. The gods hear me. They open up the clouds. It starts to rain. Hour before the guests arrive, the park clears out because it's raining. The entire grounds are empty. The rain stops. The sun starts setting.
Oh, wow.
This goes across the forum. It looked like a Hollywood stage, the entire thing. And then the last one, and I like a challenge. I if you can't tell.
Yeah.
We had an event in China, in Beijing. And I really, really I don't know if I could say it enough, really wanted to recreate the dinner event, modernize it, but recreate the dinner event that Mao and Nixon had together when they first met in the Great Hall of the People. That was just, some little bug crawled up my backside, and I wasn't going to change my mind.
And it made your cojones... never mind. Grandiose.
Well, okay, 6'4" and
okay, Edward. I opened up a can there. We don't want to get you in any more trouble than
no more trouble. But obviously, it's like I equate that building and that hall to our White House, right? I mean, it's sacred ground.
Yep.
So I decide to do the Italian workaround and see if I can play it. And knowing about service and giving back, I went to the Ancient Relics Department or group or organization in Beijing and made them a deal with having my group of 800 people work on a section of the Great Wall. And that kind of experience is not commonplace in China. So, I got the proverbial, sure, you can do whatever you want, pat you on the head, and if you do it, we'll clear the space for you. Excellent.
Mr. Burns.
So we ended up working it out, and I brought 800 people to a section of the Great Wall that was collapsing. And in one day, they rebuilt a 2,500-foot section of it, carrying the bricks up the hill, repainting the rail, planting about 600 trees, redoing this whole section. I mean, there was still so much more to do.
Right.
But who gets to do that as a guest, right? You're in China, you want to go see the Great Wall. But now these people, some people, from New York or Kansas or London or whatever, every time they look at the wall, they're going to smile because they had a hand in that, right? Who gets that? And I got my room because it was like, oh, by the way, 15 news outlets picked it up, so it's real. That's kind of for me when I started realizing that, and there are so many amazingly talented event professionals out there. There is talent that I can't even touch. It's an industry of individuals that are so unsung. From the amount of work that they do, the program management that they do, the budget management that they do, the safety protocols, and for the most part, I call them adult babysitters because that's how they're treated.
Right.
And it's like, these are the most strategic individuals around because you're navigating so many different voices and so many different agendas for one outcome. And it does take that mindset of realizing that, okay, I've got to be true to myself. And my husband is a stylist. And so there's a lot of, as you can imagine, fashion talk around the house.
Right.
I look at what I do as a clothing designer where I will build you the gown you want, but it's still going to be my aesthetic. I will give it to you the way you want it, but you're hiring me for a voice. You're not hiring me to interpret your voice. And so that's the difference, that if I could get my peers to think of themselves that way, they'd be unstoppable. Is your aesthetic, your voice is first and foremost. And then you listen to your clients' voices, and then you find that happy ground, and then you just take off.
So I kind of had two questions here. Now you just made me think of one. I was like, so was there ever a client that you had that their vision and your vision were completely different, and then they fell in love with your vision? So I guess I'll touch. No.
The one in particular that I'm thinking of, no, I actually left her at the altar.
Oh.
Wait, no, not my altar. I would know.
No, I understand. Was there ever, God, the two events that you just mentioned were, awe-inspiring in and of themselves. But was there ever a moment with a celebrity or with someone well known that it just really kind of you got that celebrity shock or fan syndrome or any? I can't remember what the hell word I'm trying to think of, but
this is I will name drop this one because I love this woman. I've had the pleasure of working with Jennifer Hudson a couple times, and as far as I'm concerned, that girl walks on water.
Nice.
She has to be next to Viola Davis. She has to be one of the most hardest working, humblest divas on the planet. And we were working on an event once, and the two of us had not met face to face at that moment. And she had just gotten engaged, and just at that point, and she was all over the press showing off her ring and this thing that would sink the Titanic, right? She's got little fingers, so it's just like, don't go swimming.
Jack.
I just wanted to do something for her that was going to make the ring look small.
Okay.
So, and we're in the islands, and so it took a couple days, and I think I had every auntie on the island, and I used every white plumeria I could find on the island, and we made a 30-foot high by 40-foot long crystal and white orchid wall.
Whoa.
Behind her stage.
Dang.
And then just to kind of push it further, we made a 20-foot diameter chandelier out of the same product, the crystals and everything else. She came with a single white piano on stage. That was it.
Beautiful.
She walks in. I'm sitting near the front of the room, and she walks in the back, and I could hear her, and all I heard was, "Damn, this boy is serious." After her sound check and everything else, about an hour after that, my phone rings, and there's a text message from her manager, and it's a picture of her in this amazing red dress with a red scarf around her neck, and he's like, "Can you get us a fan for the base of the stage?" I'm thinking, yeah. And then I open up, I see this picture, and it says a little note from her saying, "After seeing The Room, I'm feeling a little Shug Avery," which from The Color Purple, which is at that point she hadn't said anything that she was going on Broadway.
Oh.
And all I could do was I walked away from that entire exchange with and now I can say this proudly, that with her being an EGOT, that I got somebody who is an EGOT who is the most creative, the most thoughtful in her performance, to change her idea of how she was going to perform by the environment and experience I created.
That's beautiful. That's
Score.
Amazing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are the moments that you get, and those are the moments with these A-listers that people don't see, right? I'm lucky. I and I'm a big everyone's replaceable. There's somebody around after me, right? I mean, I say this with love, but Martha, move. I mean, my team often says that I'm the love child of Martha Stewart and Anthony Bourdain, where I'll make it pretty, but I'll also tell you to go to hell at the same time. But it's, there is another generation coming up, but to fall into that timing your career where you can say, this is my time. 100%, this is my time. And I've worked for 28 years to get my butt here, right? I mean, I think Billy Porter said it the best at the Tonys, right? He's an overnight sensation that took 23 or 32 years.
Right, 32
to become an overnight sensation. It's not all money. It's not all glitz and glam. It is hard work. It is hard work to please the public. It is hard work to please yourself.
As a creative, yes, very much so.
it is. I once again, the theater in me is. I have a lot of the actor mentality, right? The skin has its moments of being thin, but it has to be thick.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get your vision. You have to be the storyteller. You have to take them on that journey, and hope they'll understand it. That's why you had made a comment about being so literal. You may get the joke because it's in your head, but like a good bottle of wine, just because it's your favorite doesn't mean everyone else will. You have to find one that's going to please every palate, which means there are some times where you have to water down what you want in order for the masses to actually absorb it.
And we're coming up. Well, actually, we just hit the hour mark, Edward. And so we're going to kind of start wrapping things up here. But David, of course, I'm going to let Edward tell everyone where to find him and everything, and then I'll do our little secret hidden question. I'm just kidding, Edward. David, is there anything else you wanted to ask before we started wrapping things up?
Well, I guess there was a couple, but I'll stick to one. It's not much of a question, but you were talking about that whole situation in the park, and I remember yesterday I went to my girlfriend's. They had a nephew's birthday party, and we were walking across the park to go get her mom and help navigate her over to the birthday area, and I see this little girl, probably no older than 13, in a Snow White dress, sitting in this really bright dress in a sewer. I'm like, I don't know what's, and I look over a little bit more, and there's a professional photographer, and my mind goes wild thinking about what they're doing in a Snow White dress in a sewer, taking pictures. I mean, they've got drapes up and everything.
Was Pennywise the eighth dwarf?
I don't know. I was like, is this a Halloween direction? Is this someone thinking about all the different directions they could go with it? I wanted to throw that out there because I thought maybe a little bit of Halloween, maybe a little bit of creativity, and I thought it would be amazing to share with everybody else because I couldn't get enough. I was telling everybody at the birthday party because speaking of Pennywise, everyone was talking about it. My girlfriend had never watched it, but her whole family has. So we were all having fun. And we were going over, and he's like, I have a mask. Should I go run home and get it and go hide? They'll be on lunch break. They'll come back. And then all of a sudden, Pennywise will be in there.
Well, I found this Halloween mask online, and I couldn't pass it up. It's this, but what I love is it's magnetic. And it rips off to that. As I said, I'm a huge Halloween fan, but I like the gorier kind of stuff. That's the way I like to go. But
so any character from the movie 31?
Yeah.
I like Rob. I like
Rob,
I
love Rob.
And I love Sherry.
Those two.
I think now I'm not entirely thrilled. I had such high hopes for the Munsters.
I'm scared of it. Of it.
Yeah, a friend saw the preview. I'm still watching it because I'm going to support the hell out of them. But I think Sherry is so passed over.
Oh yeah,
her performance in Halloween did not get the attention that it should have gotten.
The whole movie Halloween did not get the attention it should have. I almost before this show, I did tell my wife, I was like, we should watch the zombie remake of Halloween. I do love the original. That was one of the first horror movies I saw in a theater. And, so it has a special place in my heart. It always will. But I love zombies take on that. And, just the whole big lumbering, I can pop you on top of the head and break your freaking body.
Well, it was a story, right? There was empathy from Michael.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just
donuts, but
right.
I mean, I could see how anybody could become that. Anyway, sorry, we digress.
No. But no, I love zombie myself. God, there's so many others of his and Sherry's movies that I do enjoy. House of a Thousand Corpses, and the whole, what is it? the clown. I can't remember. It's not Captain Howdy. That's a whole different.
Yeah, but it's Captain something.
Spaulding.
Yes.
Yeah, Captain Howdy is a D. Snyder whole different thing, which was a really good movie itself. But we're what 36 days away from Halloween. We're rolling up on it. The Halloween season is here. We're hoping to bring some more stuff throughout the few weeks. But Edward, we touched on Halloween decorations. You gave some really damn great tips. Before I tell you where everybody, or get you to tell everybody where they can follow you and they can do all that kind of stuff, follow you on social media, what's your biggest tip going in for the average Halloween lover this year that you hadn't already given, because you already gave some really cool ones?
Don't follow the rules.
Oh, I like it.
Don't follow the rules.
Hopefully we'll like it just as much as the final one.
Right? Yeah, I told you we had that secret, encoder ring question coming up.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll have to come back and just talk horror movies.
Hey, we'd love to have you on for that. David and I were just talking earlier about having a horror movie one.
Have you seen the new trailer for M. Night Shyamalan? I can never say his name.
Yeah,
Not the Cabin.
I have, and I am an M. Night Shyamalan fan. I love the trilogy of Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. There's, he's had a few missteps along the way. I'm looking forward to that. Someone was arguing with me the other day. They were saying him and Jordan Peele was on levels above him, and I had to argue. I thought they're not even.
Well, okay, I will argue that I would not. They're on different levels because to me they're completely different storytellers.
Yes.
So I would not compare them together at all.
Yeah,
it's a different experience. Each story that
it's completely different, and there's not one that's better than the other. It's just because it's horror, everyone's got to be the same. Right.
No, and everyone has their own likes, and and M. Night Shyamalan, there's a lot. I like those twists. I like that build up. Unbreakable, the trilogy took like freaking 20 years, and no one even knew it was going to be a trilogy when it started out with Unbreakable. And but Edward, tell everybody, we know edwardperotti.com. Is there, do you use?
Don't forget the A, Edward A. Perotti.
Oh,
because apparently there's another Edward Perotti out there that years ago, and I can't find the person, and I'm like, give it up, it's mine. So edwardperotti.com, and then I'm once again, because I tend to be very closed mouth on a lot of the work. I will show work and I will show inspiration, but you'll never see people or logos or anything in my pictures. So I'm not that big on social media because, people can't get stuff out. But if you go to Perotti EA on Instagram, I do post a lot of inspiration pictures and ideas and things that people can do. And just hopefully it just sparks people. But like I said, if you're looking for the person who is going to say that they've got 7 million followers, that's not me, because that's not my goal.
Hey, I completely understand. And exactly, respectable. But Edward, I told you we had our secret decoder ring question. It's not that scary. It's just something we ask everybody. I've asked it over 50 times. We've had a lot of really cool answers. I'm really looking forward to yours. And it's, if you suddenly had a time machine and you could go back in time and give young Edward one single piece of advice, what would it be?
You're gay.
Okay, I got you.
There we go.
Yep, and that's unique answer. We've never had that one before.
Kids, leave it to me.
No, and I like that. I mean, I just did a show a few weeks ago where I edited in the answers for everybody for over 50 people, and some of them, are the first 2 or 3 times it was queued of by Apple. But we still get that a lot, and which is still cute, and they usually go into another answer. But I always like getting that spur of the moment, that spontaneous answer. You don't think about it. It's just, you're going back to young Edward. And I can totally understand, seem to be around at least close proximity of the same age. And so back then there was that wasn't something that you could openly admit to yourself.
Nope.
A lot of the times.
And it is something that so I'll real quickly go back to one question you asked about what event kind of was the pivotal one. Coming out was the pivotal event, because that changed my entire confidence level, and that changed everything about me in order to where just nothing mattered. And it was like the shackles were off.
Very freeing.
Yeah.
And it probably also was able to open you up more creatively. I
was open to other things, right? All of a sudden, my walls weren't blocking stuff coming in either.
Right.
So that's, there's something, once again, freeing about a creative soul.
I love it. Well, folks, we have been on with Edward Perotti. Edward, do not go anywhere. We want to say goodbye off the air. Folks, check out edwardperotti.com. And Edward, what was it again on Instagram?
Perotti EA.
Perotti EA. We've had a great time with you, Edward. Like I said, stick around. Folks, in case you have missed the show, you're just now tuning in. I see a few of you jumping in on Facebook and YouTube. Rewind. Go back to the YouTube channel. You can watch the whole thing tomorrow morning. It'll be on the podcast, which, of course, is available on all the major platforms. You have been listening to Into the Geekverse, brought to you by God almighty damn,
Geek
David.
Insider.
By the Geek Insider. But anyway, have a great week, folks. Next week, tell them, David, who's coming?
Next week, we are having Howard back.
Yeah, Howard Scott Warshaw. The man, the myth, the legend from Atari, the man who screwed up an entire gaming industry, or at least that's what his.
He shared something with us before. Catch it this time to see if he's got some new news for us.
Yeah, he dropped some cool news on us about Yar's Revenge, a whole sequel coming up. If you grew up in the late 70s, early 80s with Atari, he dropped some bombshells on us. We're having him back, and this time I promise we are going to talk about E.T. and how he killed an entire fucking gaming industry. But so make sure you tune in next week. That is Sunday night at 9:00 Central. I almost always screw this up. 7 p.m. Pacific and whatever time Eastern. But that's all for us, folks. Y'all tune in next week. Having a great week. Damn, I get tongue-tied. Thanks, Edward.
Bye.
Oh, that does it for this episode of Into the Geekverse. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. And if you want to join us live, hit that bell so you never miss a show. Want to catch us on the go? Listen to our podcast on every major platform, but you can catch the real fun on YouTube. Be sure to visit geekinsider.com for tons of great geek content and advertising opportunities. And if you want to stay up to date on all things geeky, sign up for our newsletter. We'll see you next Sunday at 9 p.m. Central. And if you're not here, we might have to revoke your geek card. Have a great week, everyone.